In this example, we're going to get some practice evaluating inverse trig functions. That's where we find the value of an angle, find out what angle we have if we happen to know the value of the trig function, sort of the reverse of what we were just doing recently. There's two different ways we could denote the inverse trig function. One is by using this -1 superscript, so this refers to the inverse sign. The other is the arc notation, where we just put the letters ARC in front of the function. These mean the same thing. And we have the same notation for the other trig functions, and their inverse trig functions as well. I tend to use the arc notation a little bit more often than the other notation, simply because this one is often confused with being the same as the -1 exponent, and it is very much not an exponent. It just indicates the inverse function. So in example 1.8, we want to evaluate these inverses, these inverse functions. The first one, part A, arc sine of 1/2. This means we want to find out what is the angle for which sine is equal to 1/2. Now, there are some values where we can actually use the unit circle to help us with that, and later on we'll delve more into the other regions of the circle, but for now we're sticking to the first quadrant. So within the first quadrant, I want to know where is sine equal to 1/2, and this is where it comes in handy to remember that on the point on the unit circle, the sine of an angle corresponds with its y-coordinate. So I'm going to scan this first quadrant and see where is the y-coordinate equal to 1/2, and this happens right here. And this happens at an angle of 30 degrees, or if I were using radians, pi over 6 radians. And so arc sine of 1/2 is equal to 30 degrees. We'll mostly be sticking with degrees, but it's perfectly acceptable to give the answer in radians as well. In part B, we want the inverse cosine of, here I'm using the other notation, of √2/2. So I'm going to scan the first quadrant to see where is, in this case now, the x-coordinate equal to √2/2. Cosine corresponds to the x-coordinate, and that happens right here at 45 degrees, or pi over 4 radians. So the inverse cosine of √2/2, or arc cosine of √2/2, is 45 degrees, or pi over 4 radians.